use that same energy, use them same fat-phobic, non-binary phobic lips to say sorry to people in the same places you hurt them. What's up, rebels? My name's Willy. I am one half of Leo and Willy. We are engaged, we are queer. And today I am here to talk about the fact that Kalvin's back, baby. Yeah, what even is 2025 right now? Many of you would have found our channel through my Kalvin Garrah deep dive, where I set this court scene and I played both prosecutor and defendant and allowed you to be the final court of public opinion. It was very dramatic. Is it obvious I like the theatre? It was very, very dramatic. There was a musical cell block tango rendition. For what reason, I do not know. But that's who I was. I'm not as dramatic as I used to be. Okay, I'll do it. Of course you'll do it. I'm still dramatic. So dramatic. Kalvin claimed he's changed and kind. Do you believe it? Will you forgive it? Watch to see if you will change your mind. I'm like Beyonce, but like not. So Kalvin joins his friend of 4 years, another YouTuber. Her name is Riley Grace Rashong, and they together have a 2-hour talk about how Kalvin was back in the days. Now, I'm cis and my partner is trans, so naturally I will not be forgiving Kalvin on behalf of my fiancé's community, but what I will do is give you an unfiltered response, because that's what I can do. So without further ado, join in if you know it. Let's get into it!
Could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, how do I even do an introduction?
Yeah, I know. That's typically the question I like to ask for everybody.
Ex-YouTuber, grad student. Riley and I have known each other for probably I would say 4 years now, probably 2020.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And I'm transgender myself, so I'd react to a lot of discourse in the trans community.
Reacting to a lot of discourse in the trans community is a really funny way of saying starting a lot of discourse in the trans community. TLDR, Kalvin joined YouTube when he was 16 years old. He went on to create some of the most harmful ideologies and social environments for trans and non-binary people. Some people are rightfully still affected to today. So I think Kalvin saying he just reacted to some discourse is like Blair White saying a little bit toxic. They're both incredibly understated. Now, Kalvin also introduces himself as an ex-YouTuber.
Ex-YouTuber.
This could explain why he has chosen to go on someone else's channel as opposed to addressing the harmful things on the channel of which the harmful things took place. And I'll be honest and say I personally don't know Riley or haven't watched her content up until this day. This is no sort of comment on how good she is at what she does. Definitely not trying to ick her yum. This is direct commentary on Kalvin using a substantially smaller channel to speak about such big issues. Cowardly, some would say. I'm some. Some's me. Now, I'm obviously not the only one who has mixed reactions and feelings towards Kalvin being in this video and Riley hosting this video. But before I get into my views, I want to quickly go to some of your views. I'm going to read out some of the comments that stood out for me. Oh, the guy that made me hate myself for being non-binary. I mean, I'm glad this guy decided to change, but I don't think he understands how many people he hurt. This guy messed me up bad as a kid, trying to figure myself out as a non-binary person. I'm still unlearning to this day. The only thing I can say is keep growing, man. I know he will likely never be forgiven by most, but I really commend him for at least facing and talking about these things. The way he spent the whole time trying to reduce how awful he was, lol. Looks like Kalvin is in a better headspace now. I hope he's doing better now. Like I said, a mixed reaction. Some people are very, why is this happening? Why is this taking place? I do not forgive you. And some people are, yes, I do forgive you and I hope you continue to grow. I can't really place an opinion on how I think people should respond to their own hurt. So how people feel is how people feel. Some people describe Kalvin's previous content as bullying. Some people describe it as malicious. Let's see what Kalvin describes it as.
You'll get this tune throughout most of my videos, right? Where I was being very edgy.
Friends, do you remember that cute little time in your life when you was super edgy and bullied people off the internet? Do you remember that hashtag ooh edgy phase of your life where you kind of just called people fat for no reason? Yeah, just Kalvin, I think. To be fair, he does go on to say,
I was making points that I think would have been taken better if it wasn't at an individual and if it wasn't so mean-spirited.
Okay.
Kalvin is of course talking about the infamous Brennan Beckworth roast, for a lack of a better term. The video was 50 Shades of Ick, and as Kalvin himself has said, incredibly mean-spirited. The problem is that when he put this video up, Kalvin was influential. An influential bully. Woo! That's exactly what this community needs. This video amassed over 1 million views, and as a result, Brennan was harassed, dogpiled on, and eventually forced to leave the internet for his own mental safety. Brennan didn't actually return to the internet until years later, until the views of transmedicalism started to change. And if you don't know what transmedicalism is, I am not going to do a rap. What I will do is put up a screenshot of some sort of definition that you can see in 3, 2, 1. Kalvin's stance previously was very much rooted in these toxic binary rules. If you don't pass, you can't be trans. If you're non-binary, you kind of don't exist. These were views that he enforced, his very, very strict binary rules, on other people, I believe because he had a lot of self-hate. I don't think there's any other way to describe it, because hurt people. We know how it goes. I've said this in almost every single video.
I made a video yesterday about why I make hateful content, but guess what? We're back with the fucking hateful content, bitches.
His previous views were very classist and very, very privileged. They didn't really take into account the fact that some people are from lower socio-economical backgrounds, right? So they don't make the same amount of money that you do or your family do. So maybe they can't afford HRT. Some people medically cannot take HRT. And this one, some people, by this I mean every single person in this world, has the right to choose to do whatever they want with their body, and they don't need to justify it to you, Kalvin. They do not. The Brennan Beckworth video is arguably one of the best examples that demonstrates just how disgusting Kalvin used to be online. So naturally, Riley and Kalvin could not get through this 2-hour interview without mentioning it. This is done in segments. It's kind of like all over the place, which isn't commentary. That happens, you're in a conversation, but Mother's here, and I've got you the highlights.
Feeling in the mood to make a reaction video, and I didn't know what to do it on until today when I found the perfect video. It was just some cringy SJW talking about how she's trans, and so I decided that looks like a great video. I think her name is Brennan. Let's get straight into it. Hey guys, as you can tell, I physically cringe saying that now. Inside of my computer, but we're gonna start reacting to this crazy fucking trans trender.
So, at the time, what was that word understood to mean?
So it's weird because I feel sometimes that my understanding of the word was a little bit different than like what people thought I was trying to say. Because I never felt that people were intentionally pretending to be trans.
Okay, so what were you trying to say then?
So people thought that I was saying that people were pretending to be trans. I think at the time, my point was that like, no, these are people who genuinely believe that they're trans and like fully identify with that. Not because of like an innate reason. I don't really give a shit about your videos that you make, but it turns out that yeah, so one thing that bothered me at the time, I wish I could zoom in, oh I can, is that like this person writes on here like, AM airs pronouns, but you know it doesn't really matter.
I never thought that people were pretending to be trans.
I never felt that people were intentionally pretending to be trans.
Now, I'm going to call that out as a bare-faced lie. You absolutely were pushing the idea that some people were faking being trans. I feel like in order to grow, people have to really be honest, so just saying, oh, maybe people misunderstood me feels like a lie. It's given pathetic. Be honest. Kalvin really thought we all showed up stupid. If we're talking about literally referencing a video that you are watching where you are denying someone's identity and misgendering them, very purposely, by the way, then that is taking away their identity. You don't think it's real, right? You're not going to acknowledge that identity for them because you cannot see the validity in that. If you do not think someone's identity is real, then the opposite of that, my darling, is fake. It's pretend. So please don't say that it was all a misunderstanding. It feels more truthful to say that, hey, look, I used to think it was fake, or I didn't think it was fake, but I pretended to because that was profitable. That feels like acknowledgement. I don't understand what's happening. This slipping, sliding, this yeeting. However you try to pretty it up, which you definitely are trying to do, there's no other way that that can come across. Like, you're older now, you're clearly more sophisticated, and clearly so are your excuses. I said what I said. Kalvin did go on to speak a little bit more about the misgendering of Brennan, so I will allow him to say what he said.
Using she, her, I think is
totally wrong, and I feel bad.
Yeah.
And I like wish, I mean, I did try to apologize to him, like a few years later. I made a really bad apology video at one point, but that was, you know, different. But I sent him a personal apology from, I think, my personal Instagram account that I don't use, and the response I got just, I was like, okay, like, I felt like, I don't know. I was like, it's not your job to forgive me, so, but I apologized, and I felt, because I genuinely felt bad. I mean, even if I was 17 years old, like, if my words hurt you, if my words sent, you know, people to witch hunt you, like, that's awful.
Now, this is absolutely one of those, this apology isn't meant for me moments, so I'm going to absolutely respect that. I'm not going to falsify some form of pain to forgive an apology that absolutely isn't meant for me, right? I can absolutely appreciate someone acknowledging the harm that they've done and admitting, almost narcissistically, that they didn't even realize the impact of that harm until it was done to them.
And unfortunately, I mean, I felt that myself, getting witch hunted by so many people online. So, you know, I hate that it took like something like that happening to me to really get to that point where I felt that bad. But, you know, I feel bad to this day about it. And I feel bad for anyone who's offended by these videos.
I can't lie, friends. Something about the way he's described his content as edgy kind of just rubs me the wrong way.
I was being very edgy.
Feels like a bit of a dodge of what it actually was. It wasn't edgy, it was bullying. That's just my perspective. He said he's guilty, which I think is like, you have to hold on to words like that too, because he has said he feels guilt. And as he's also mentioned, you know, it's not Brennan's responsibility to remove that guilt for him. But yeah, I think sorry is an action word. It's like a secret verb. In order for it to really matter, you have to see the action behind it. The reality is that Kalvin took entirely too long to remove that video after being asked and asked and asked. And then he even made it private and then public again to double down when he was criticized. You know, 17 or not, these were conscious choices that he made. And so I think that he should have been more consciously trying to undo those wrongs. I don't think he did that. In fact, you know, putting out an apology, which by his own standards, he states,
I made a really bad apology video at one point.
Followed by a cheeky DM, isn't really sorry, it's just words. Being sorry is maybe putting together a good sorry video, removing the harmful content, because there are still some harmful content on your channel still today, and actually trying to actively undo the harm that you have caused. I haven't seen any of that, so whilst it's not my apology to take, I'll certainly reject it. I'm going to be incredibly honest with you all. I am not someone who actually actively dislikes Kalvin. I'm very aware that I have the privilege to look at his content from an objective perspective. I'm also aware that being in love with a trans person and being surrounded by so many trans people makes me a bit biased. I am a little bit pissed. But honestly, I do not objectively dislike him. I think this interview could be a great stepping stone to actually undoing the harm in the places that he caused the harm. I can absolutely see why doing this interview on a 18,000 sort of subscriber channel, which by the way is no mean feat, hello, congrats, subscribe to us. But doing it there might feel a little bit more palatable for him, right? You sort of wean your way into something before spotlight. Can definitely acknowledge that that might be the best thing for him to do for his mental health. And if someone makes a choice to preserve their mental health, sure, I can't say that's a bad thing. But I can acknowledge that while still admitting that it feels a bit cowardly for him to have gone to this channel to have such an important conversation. All of your hate was platformed to such a large scale. So, hey, use that same energy, use them same fat-phobic, non-binary phobic lips to say sorry to people in the same places you hurt them. What's this cop-out of an apology in this tiny pocket of the internet? Like, and this is not me, again, saying that Riley's area is small because she's got more subscribers than we do. I'm saying that in comparison, it feels like a cop-out. It feels cowardly, and Kalvin absolutely should have been trying to undo the harm in the spaces he caused the harm.
Cringy SJW talking about how she's trans, and so I decided that looks like a great video.
I can acknowledge that Kalvin is obviously cringing in embarrassment, which is a sign of growth. or a sign of cringing in embarrassment. I genuinely believe that everybody has the potential to change. I really, really do. I think my past social footprint, I've been versions of myself that I absolutely despise, and every day I'm working to be someone that my inner child would truly like, you know? I'll be honest and say that I don't believe that, from this interview anyway, it appears that Kalvin has really done the work to look at himself in the mirror and think about what he's actually done and how he's really hurt people. It feels like soft accountability when he needs to take some hard accountability. Hard accountability means having some really difficult, brutal conversations with yourself, which in Kalvin's case may look like, okay, I admit that I did this, and I did this for monetary reasons. I did this because I sought and needed validation. I did this because Blair White was a great stepping stone for me, and I felt like I would have such a huge community, and hey, I'm getting super paid. I feel like that's ugly to admit sometimes, but it's also very truthful. And I think that's closer to Kalvin's truth. So this, people misunderstood me. You know, I didn't think people were fake when they said being trans, and, you know, I was edgy, hashtag, ooh. All of that stuff doesn't really wash with me. It sounds like bullshit. For those who watched the interview in its entirety, you'll know there were times where, you know, Kalvin made some tiny justifications where I'll have to be honest and say, that's not growth. Growth is acknowledging the ugly, working hard to change the effects of that ugly, and then actively working to be beautiful. And of course, these are metaphors. We'll say that this video is a step, and if it's not a step, then it's certainly a great opportunity for Riley to get a lot of views.
You were thinking it. No, you said it.
But let's see what Kalvin had to say about why he changed and why he stopped posting on YouTube.
I was like, okay. I thought to myself, like, if so many people disagree with me, I'm obviously in this echo chamber of my audience, who are all really counting on me to agree with this.
Sure.
So I need to stop making YouTube videos. If I ever want to reevaluate my position in like an honest way, I need to get off.
That's really interesting. So there was a point where you kind of acknowledged that, like, if you wanted to change your views,
I had to leave
because your audience expected you to have a certain kind of view.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why I stopped making videos.
This is interesting for me because someone, and I mean anyone, saying, you know, my views changed and for that reason I stopped using that platform that was fueled by hate to, you know, continue posting, you know, that sounds based as fuck, right? On a surface level, if you accept that for face value, that really does sound like a respectable answer. Like if Blair White suddenly just stopped posting, or Ariel Scarcella, please girl, stop posting. And, you know, they just stopped posting for 2 years and they came back and they were like, you know what? My channel was fueled by hate, but I've changed. I feel like I've grown. And so I no longer comment on that channel or participate or in any way would like to be connected to that channel. I think that's pretty cool. But is it true? I just don't buy it. I'm sorry, but I don't. If I did buy it, I don't think it would be super easily accessible for me to, you know, go and find that Brennan video, which is for some reason now public again to 2.2 million viewers. And some will argue, oh, he only made it public so he could have it for the interview. You can keep it unlisted. And hey, I did a deep dive when that video was not public and I found that interview because other people have uploaded it elsewhere. You know, there are other content that suddenly become public, and I don't get it. Maybe Kalvin's returning and going to be doing a, you know, reaction to all his old content. I don't know. But I think the fact that the content is still up, accessible, and potentially Kalvin could be still getting money from it is bullshit. Real bullshit. Also, Kalvin stating that, you know, he didn't want to be on his channel anymore because it represented something bad is kind of a lie, because he did go on to post. You won't see it because those videos are removed now, but for those of you who have watched the deep dive, you will know that Kalvin absolutely did continue to post. He went on to try and create a podcast with one of his friends, Noah, and his sister. They had 2 episodes. He went on to put singing covers on the channel, and the truth is as I proved in my deep dive, they went on to a significantly smaller audience. People just stopped caring about your bullshit, and that's why you stopped posting. The conversations were changing and people were seeing you for the bully that you were. Not only that, your victims were starting to speak up, and trust me, they were finding their voices. And so there was no space for you. You couldn't be profitable as a bully, and you certainly couldn't just try this new thing because nobody was watching it. They were there. So let's not pretend that you removed all your content and you have this clean slate where you decided that it was all bad, because up until when I did the last deep dive, which was actually just last year, the end of some point last year, there was content still on that channel. So no. Sorry, darling, but no. And I want to be very clear and repeat once again that I do believe people can change. And actually, Kalvin, I'm talking directly to you because I actually think you will watch this video. I am not saying that you are beyond changing, beyond evolving. I am not even saying that you haven't become a kinder, more evolved, more inclusive person. Absolutely not. But I will call out the bullshit. Okay, I can completely appreciate that you may have left the channel because things were changing or you were changing, but I don't think it's wise or honest to say that you didn't continue to post and you weren't trying to still have a fan base, but actually your fan base kind of left you, right? There's more to this. It feels like you're trying to paint a very black and white picture when it's actually very colorful. And it also feels like you're only taking accountability for the black and the white when there are loads of different colors that you really should be speaking on. You know, I think honesty and being colorful is also speaking about all the other elements that actually led to you really being off the channel, and not just I've changed now and so it doesn't feel right to be part of this, because that kind of did not happen. It's such a sophisticated answer that someone with time and nuance and hindsight can of course create, but I think being honest and being truthful and trying to evolve is going back to who you were and acknowledging how that person made people feel, and still using the knowledge of the person now to be able to rightfully and respectfully apologize for that. And I just don't think that happened. I don't.
You don't think that you're going to be doing any more like YouTube videos or?
No, because it just feels like, what am I have to say? I mean,
I see it as like, I don't know if it's like too much to say that like it feels like a bit of a tragedy. To me, it feels like it. I understand that people might like roll their eyes or whatever.
Kalvin has confirmed that he will not be returning to YouTube, which kind of destroys my theory that some of the, you know, like the really horrible videos are public because he's reacting to them now. It's just a bit odd. I don't know why they're up now. If anyone's got a theory, put it in the comment section. Kalvin has some really clear plans for the future, and I honestly really hope he achieves them. I do. I truly do. I think if he is as evolved as he says he is, if he has grown in the way that he says he has, then I wish him nothing but the best. To be honest, even if he hadn't, I'm just not the sort of person that will purposely try and wish on someone's downfall. It's just not me, and I don't place any judgment on those who do, by the way, because I get it. Something I didn't enjoy from, this is Riley and not Kalvin, is her saying that, you know, him not returning to social media and YouTube, describing that as a tragedy. A tragedy for who exactly? Maybe just you, babe. Like, how is that a tragedy? I don't know. I think it's quite an insensitive take to label him staying offline as a tragedy when him online was so damaging for many, many people. I don't know what's a tragedy about it personally. I really just do not. Like, oh no, everyone's old sleep paralysis demon is not coming back on the internet. Tragedy. Hey, this is your experience and I'm just giving you my honest thoughts. I will also say that something that Riley did that was really great is that, you know, despite those two being really close friends and being friends for 4 years, she did call him out on his bullshit, and she was very open about some of the opposing views that she had to some of Kalvin's earlier views. And I'm just going to put something in, just as an example, so I can give you a little bit of, just a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm going to be totally honest. Like, if I hear someone being like, yeah, those cringe SJWs, that's sounding off red flags in my
huge
in my
red
mind.
flags.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at one more clip before I round this up. And this is about Kalvin's newfound feelings on how to be positive on the internet and how to be positive on social media.
How do you think that social media could be used to make a positive impact in IRL policy or politics?
Gather people for building a community of people who kind of have the same focus of enacting that change. In your university, social media can be used for like a university to create, like we have a Young Democratic Socialists of America group at my university that has like a online thing, you know? And so I think that, and then like, I think utilizing like to portray, to be thoughtful and mindful about the way you say things. Video essays are great. I think video essays are the future.
I wanted to end on that because I really like the idea of seeing someone who, you know, who didn't use social media for a great way, now in hindsight, be able to list some really positive ways social media can be used. In particular, creating community. Kalvin was someone who absolutely abused his platform. He absolutely abused social media. And being honest, in the 2 hours, this 2-hour podcast chat, did I see growth? Yes. Did I see accountability? Some. Some. And that's the key word, some. Do I see full accountability? No. Do I think you're ever going to get that? Probably not. I think there's still a lot of like shame attached to what he did. I think there's still a lot of like personal self journey stuff that he has to go through for himself to really recognize the depth of how much he hurt people. I don't think that it was... I think he played down his role in the abuse and impact that he had for some people. I do. And I can understand why. I truly can. I think Kalvin chose peace, which that's fine. You know, as someone who struggles with my mental health, sometimes you just got to choose peace, whether you're right or wrong. But why do a 2-hour interview if you're not actually going to get to the nitty gritty? You know, what was the point of it? I don't know. I'll be honest. I'll say I don't know. But you know what? It's a 2-hour interview, and you know, he helped his friend get a decent amount of views on a long video, which is probably the only thing that I can see from it that actually was kind of impactful. You know, smaller channels like myself, smaller channels like Riley, Grace. It's always great when we can get good videos out there and videos that people find engaging, right? So that's kind of like the only plus I can see from it, because I don't personally believe that it really tackled a lot of the issues. I think it was like kind of on the surface, right? It was like a shallow dive, a shallow dive as opposed to a deep dive. If you're gonna speak for 2 hours, then like I said, use those fat phobic lips, use those non-binary phobic lips, use the same energy you used before to undo the harm. I just don't think that was the case. But I will say there were many times where he was cringed by himself. There were many times where he was visibly uncomfortable by witnessing his own actions. There were times where he laughed, where some people might find this, you know, a bit toying, but I think was through nervousness. I think to be able to do the interview did take bravery, but to do it on a smaller platform, I think was cowardly. Did he take responsibility? Like I said, some. That's just my perspective. But most importantly, what's your perspective? I would love to hear your thoughts. Are you someone who's been personally affected by Kalvin in the past? Did you watch the recent video? Have you forgiven him? What do you think? I genuinely would love to know. This is a conversation. There's no real right or wrong answer in this. It's just for us to communicate, speak, and create important conversations that really do impact our community. So I would love to see your thoughts, and I will be responding to every single one of them. Potentially. All right, I love you guys so much. Drink water, eat carrots, and Leo will see you in the next video. Goodbye.